aspects of life. That's what the difference between teacher and ustad is. So, there's a joke in Urdu, I heard it when I was a small kid, कि वो टीचर साहब क्लास में आए और उन्होंने कहा भाई कल होमवर्क दिया था, कितने बच्चों को आता है? तो आधों ने हाथ खड़ा कर दिया और फिर मैंने पूछा भाई कितनों को नहीं आता, बाकी आधों ने हाथ खड़ा कर दिया। तो उन्होंने कहा कि भाई जिसको आता है वो बाकियों को पढ़ा दे, my job is done. So my job is really easy after lectures by two excellent teachers, and I won't say that my job is difficult. Again, I'll be just repeating the things. So hypertension, the problem is, I'd like to say another thing. All these recommendations and guidelines, unfortunately, come from Europe and America, applied either to Caucasians or black, and we are neither of them. So guidelines are there to guide you and not to dictate you, to guide you what is better. So when I started my training, I was a big founder of, I had a lot of interest and a lot of I like the beta blockers a lot, and I still do, despite so many things in literature against them, because living in Pakistan and not in England or America or Australia or Germany, I don't know how to control the blood pressure of a single child mother who is hypertensive and still sending her single child to school after unfortunate Peshawar incidents. So one of the very important indication of using beta blockers in hypertension is anxiety, is stress, and there's so much of contribution in not being able to control hypertension in Pakistan of anxiety and day-to-day life stress, which practically doesn't exist in Europe, in civilized countries. You send me out of job today, I still have meal tomorrow at my home, for my kids, for my wife, for myself. In Pakistan, you send someone out of job, the lucky one who has a job, he may not have meal tomorrow for himself or for his family. So there's such a big element of stress and anxiety in day-to-day life that I really do not know that how to control blood pressure of Pakistan hypertensive population without at least a small dose of beta blockers, if not the beta blockers as the sole agent. So that's about the beta blockers. Yeah, how does it go up? Okay. So it's a progressive disease. The worldwide prevalence is increasing, so we'll have more and more hypertensive for one very basic reason, that we are having more and more old people, old population, elderly people in the world. So hypertension basically is a disease of growing age, not only of youngsters. So as you have more and more elderly people, you'll have more and more hypertensive. And yes, I agree with Dr. Shahid that you should not overburden your old people with anti-hypertensive or any drug, but they still need something to enjoy life and to continue what they want to do. So similarly, it's a killer in all social strata, rich, poor, it kills everyone. And if you look at the cardiovascular events and the risk factors which increase these events, they multiply with each other. So no risk factor operates independently. So a hypertensive who's hypertensive, mild hypertension, probably you can leave him alone and nothing will happen with the drugs or without drugs. But a hypertensive who's obese, who has family history of heart problem, who is hyperlipidemic, and who may become diabetic in future, you really got to take care of them. And there is no person who is only mildly hypertensive will have something, all of these. So hypertension is an important factor. And this slide is really very important. important because it tells you that if you increase systolic blood pressure by 10 and systolic by 20 and diastolic by only 10 millimeters of mercury, you double the risk of cardiovascular event. So this is the slide which is this is the information, and this is a epidemiological study. This is just not a hypothesis, which still says that maybe 135 is still good. So debate is going on. The issue is not settled. Yesterday we had JNC 7 saying that blood pressure jitna niche laaye utna behtar hai. Today we have JNC 8 saying no, stop at 140 by 90, don't make your patient uncomfortable. I don't know what JNC 9 will say, because this slide tells you that at a blood pressure of 135 by 85, keeping all things equal, if you still bring blood pressure to 115 by 75, you will reduce the chances of having cardiovascular event quite significantly. So whether there is a J curve or not, that bringing the blood pressure lower or not is right or wrong is still debatable, but at this stage we'll stop at 140 by 90. And there was an excellent slide, I don't have that at this moment, which shows that if you just lower the blood pressure by 2 millimeters of mercury, by any means, by any drug, by diet, exercise, weight loss, medication, whatever, relaxation, yoga, Namas, Salat, and Tasbih, whatever, you will reduce the risk of future event by 7%. So this is a basic thing that you need to reduce the... So we know that we have a lot of hypertensive people, and unfortunately, if we say that we are at the top of many things in the world, no more in hockey, no more in cricket, no more in squash, but unfortunately the most corrupted nation, and many other things. Similarly, we have the highest number of polio still rampant here. We have the highest number of uncontrolled hypertensives. Okay. So what is this has been revised again and again, stage 1 hypertension, stage 2 hypertension. Stage 1 you may start with single agent after lifestyle modification. Stage 2 you have to start with 2 agents, ACE inhibitor, ARB, ACE inhibitor, CCB, if not controlled, another drug. And we have to see that, as there has been a lot of talk, that are the ARBs really equal to ACE inhibitors? I use a lot of ARBs, but not before I have given the trial of ACE inhibitors. I know there is definite guideline that in patients with left ventricular failure, you've got to start with ACE inhibitors, and you switch to ARBs only if the patient is not tolerant to ACE inhibitors. You can't start a patient of left ventricular failure, losartan, valsartan, clemizartan. You've got to start with enalapril, lisinopril, lamopril, prindopril, any of these ACE inhibitors. But is that true for hypertension or not? Let's see that. Because I keep on telling my students that the era we live in and practice medicine and make money is the evidence-based era. We have to, I cannot write down a drug because I think it's a good drug. I need to give my patient a prescription which the randomized trial tells us that give us evidence that this is a good medicine. So if you look at the thing, if you go back, if you look at all these indications and mode of therapies, kisko kya dena hai, kisko kya dena hai, and look at again that coronary artery disease mein bhi aapne beta blockers ke saath ACE inhibitor dena hai, systolic heart failure mein bhi dena hai, diastolic heart failure mein bhi dena hai. So if you look at the all hypertensive population, diabetic, not diabetic, heart disease, not heart disease, the ACE inhibitors are the only one common agent recommended everywhere. And this is evidence-based. That this is the drug which has, I would say, revolutionized the practice of cardiology over at least my career span. And again, if you go through it, you have gone through it, for patients more than 55 or black race calcium channel blockers or diuretics, and then you keep on combining the drugs. It has been elaborated quite significantly. So we have to see that among the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, we have aldactone as well. Why not give aldactone 25 milligrams? And aldactone has no place in management of hypertension other than resistant hypertension. So why not just not write down ACE inhibitors, but not write down ARBs and just give patient aldactone, spironolactone. So there's a meta-analysis of more than 158,000 patients published by renowned teachers, professors, and the guidelines say the primary goal of treatment of hypertensive patient is to achieve the maximum reduction in long-term total risk of cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. We're not just treating the figures. Blood pressure ko yaad hai. We've got to make sure that lowering the blood pressure saves the patient from MI, from stroke, and from all other complications of blood pressure, hypertension. That's why beta blockers are out of fashion now, at least in Europe, because beta blockers don't do that as good as ACE inhibitors or ARBs. So we have to see that do the ACE inhibitors and ARBs does this job equally, and does the A in all these recommendations means ACE inhibitors or ARB, or it means only ACE inhibitors. So this was a methodology. They studied patients from 2000 to 2011, selected a lot of studies in which losartan, valsartan, and pretopril were used as ACE inhibitors. So this is a chart on ARBs, and in which there are telmisartan studies as well, candesartan, valsartan, and you can see that in overall the ARBs didn't have any significant effect on mortality. In risk reduction in mortality, if you make a meta-analysis of all large studies of ARBs, so they reduced the blood pressure, and some of these which showed significant reduction and had an effect of bringing the curve to the right, overall assessment, were retracted due to some objections on statistical analysis. So same here, overall. Now if you look at ACE inhibitors and look at different studies of ACE inhibitors, including lisinopril, enalapril, pretopril, 3 studies, you see that there is an overall reduction, trend towards reduction in mortality in hypertensive patients in future treatments of about 10%, and most of these studies were carried out in pretopril, which we will look in some detail. So the observed overall all-cause mortality reduction was almost completely result of beneficial effects of the class of ACE inhibitors. So this is a very important meta-analysis published recently, which probably will have an effect on recommendation in next recommendation, that we will probably go back to ACE inhibitors and not ARB, at least as first drug of choice for control of hypertension, and ARBs will come later on. So there was a lot of thought about combination therapy. Dr. Tayyab talked about combination in diabetes management. We all know Augmentin, combination of antibiotics, we all use antivirus combination. So is there any space for use of these combinations in management of hypertension as well? We have to look at that. And it is very important that if there is a space of combination, then we use, again based on evidence, the combination which has the evidence to be fruitful and to be beneficial for our patient, just not the exploitation. Okay, since khajur and banana is good for my patient, therefore I can give khajur and orange as well. Or if kinnu and khajur is good for my patient, therefore I can give khajur and malta as well, because both are citrus fruit. Kinnu and malta are both are citrus fruit. So instead of combining khajur with Kinu, I will combine Khajur with Malta for my patient because it's a citrus fruit. So my patient may not like or may develop allergy to citrus fruit or to Malta. So we have to follow in this era of evidence-based medicine exactly the evidence we get. We just cannot extrapolate the evidence. The evidence is to be on the agents which have been used in the study and not extrapolation. So, why to use two drugs? If you look carefully, only 25% of hypertensive patients are controlled on single agent. 75% of hypertensive patients will need more than one drug. Out of those, 25 patients will need even more than 2. 50% of hypertensive patients will need 2 drugs to control their blood pressure for multiple reasons, which was discussed earlier. You activate counter-regulatory mechanism. You don't want to go to the highest maximum possible dose because that will bring the side effects. A patient may not have cough with 5 mg of enalapril and will have cough with 10 mg of enalapril. So instead of giving him 10 mg of enalapril, you give him 5 mg of enalapril and a diuretic. So you cut down the side effects, you will improve the tolerability and therefore you improve the compliance of the patient by combining 2 drugs and you maintain the blood pressure on target for a long time. So this is a very important slide that if you use monotherapy, you control the blood pressure and you maintain the control in only 59% of the patients. So we give 2 drugs, no change. If you give 2 drugs separately, you still control the blood pressure only 59 to 60% of the patients. Whereas if you give them together, the same 2 drugs together as a single pill, you will control the blood pressure in 68% of patients. So combining, giving fixed dose combination, there are many arguments against it as well. But more and more comprehensive meta-analysis are showing that if you give fixed dose combination, you maintain blood pressure control for a longer duration and therefore you attain the long-term benefits and mortality reductions much better than giving the same 2 drugs separately. And what combinations to be used? Again, recommendations coming from Europe, from the first world, no stress. The solid lines, the solid joining lines are the lines which are preferable, like you can combine ACE or ARB with diuretic. You can combine calcium channel blockers with one of those agents. The broken lines are the combinations which you should not be using at all. And as far as I started my lecture in favor of beta blockers, yes, I would always say don't combine beta blockers with diuretics. So if my patient is not controlling blood pressure on combination of a diuretic and ACE inhibitors, I will take up diuretic, keep him on ACE inhibitors and maybe add small dose of beta blocker if he's a stressed out person. So yes, one thing which is definitely out due to its metabolic effects is the combination of beta blocker and thiazide diuretics. But are beta blockers totally out of Pakistan? I don't have the answer, again because these are the cheapest drugs available to control the blood pressure. So what is the evidence? We look at that. There are 2 trials on printopil. One printopil in combination with a diuretic and one printopil in combination with calcium channel blocker amlodipine. The first trial was advanced quite some time ago. Printopil 4 to 8 mg and indapamide, the thiazide-like diuretic which is recommended in JNCA. They specifically say not thiazide diuretic, thiazide-like diuretic with indapamide is again that recommendation is based on the outcome of this trial which showed that if you lower the blood pressure with printopil and indapamide along with good diabetes control, you have 14% reduction in total mortality, 18% in cardiovascular death, and similarly significant reduction in renal ailments as well. So benefit appeared to be independent of initial blood pressure. So this benefit was transferred to the patient when he joined the study at the blood pressure 170 by 100 or at the blood pressure 150 by 90. Similar in all major subgroups, men and women in addition to other protective therapies including ACE inhibition. So, and they have recently come with on another trial called ADVANCE-ON in which they have shown that after 10 years that benefit is maintained. I'll show you that in a slide. That's from all that they have the secondary outcomes. Here it is that if you go on ADVANCE and ADVANCE-ON follow-up, then the cardiovascular death and all-cause mortality still remain apart as it was 3 or 4 years after the initiation of the trial and when the early results were put out. So this is important that if you start a combination, fixed dose combination, your patient benefits from it, then you've got to maintain that so that the target is not to lower the blood pressure. The target is to lower the blood pressure consistently, and as you'll see in the next slide that variability in hypertension control is also another important major risk factor. So what is the other combination? So it came recently in JAMA that ACE inhibitors reduce all-cause mortality, cardiovascular mortality, and major CV events in patients with diabetes mellitus, whereas ARBs had no benefits on these outcomes. This is a very, very recent meta-analysis which was published in JAMA in less than 7-8 months ago. So these evidence were again, so we have to make sure that are we combining ACE inhibitors with diuretics or are we combining ARBs with diuretics. For me, I'll always start management of hypertension with ACE inhibitors. I will accept that the patient may not come back again to me if he has coughed 3 weeks after and go to another doctor. Many times we write down ARB for this simple reason, that patient should have minimal side effects with our drug and should not quit our service. Many times this is the only reason to start patient. There are other reasons hypothetically, but this is the main reason in mind of many consultants when they put the patient of hypertension with ARB instead of ACE inhibitors. But now the data is coming out that if you want to start on the evidence base instead of ARB, you should start your patient on ACE inhibitors. So similarly, we have an ACE inhibitor combination with calcium channel blocker, which is again indapamide based, and it is with amlodipine, and the trial on which it is based. This is the combination. This is the rationale why we should use this. Both was vasodilation, but when you combine them together, you have good blood pressure control, arterial protection, no low-level edema, which is such a common side effect with amlodipine. A very important, if you look carefully, all these combinations, 2 drug combinations in management of hypertension, basically have 2 types of drugs in them. Number 1, ACE inhibitor or ARB, which has lesser of blood pressure reduction effect, but more of vascular protective effect, more on having lesser strokes, cardiac events, and so they're more vessel friendly. They improve the prognosis better and have less effect on symptoms at that time. Whereas the other agent like amlodipine or diuretic control the blood pressure well and have lesser effect on prognosis. So in fact, what pharmaceutical companies are doing is that in combination drugs, they are combining 2 types of drugs. One, which will improve the prognosis better and will have lesser effect on blood pressure control. And the second drug is the drug which has more effect on blood pressure control and lesser effect on prognosis. So they are making that rationale in making the combination. This is by and large true and not 100%. So ACE inhibitor in any combination will be more important drug for improving the prognosis of the patient, and diuretic or amlodipine will be a drug which has lesser effect on prognosis, not zero, but more potent antihypertensive. So pridopin and amlodipine came up with a lot of studies. It showed that you have better central arterial control, which is called CAFE sub-study. You have lesser variability, more 24-hour control, and better atorvastatin control as well. There was another small trial which came from India on combination of amlodipine and this pridopil, and that was called STORM trial, and that they showed almost the same things which was shown in ASCOT trial, that combination of pridopil and amlodipine has significant reduction on blood pressure. But that's not enough. We want to see that whether the reduction in blood pressure translates into mortality benefit, into survival benefit. Because we have seen in studies that with beta blockers and diuretic combination, you get excellent blood pressure control, but you do not get mortality benefit. You do not get any significant reduction in stroke. You do not get any significant reduction in new onset diabetes or in control of lipids and in future cardiac events. So it's not the matter of controlling the blood pressure. It is translating the control of blood pressure into better mortality and lesser mortality and better survival. And that's what we want to see. And they have superior antihypertensive effect. Why? Because both amlodipine and amlodipine and pridopil are almost 24-hour drugs. If you look at other calcium channel blockers and ACE inhibitors or ARBs, they are not 24-hour control drugs. They stay at 16-hour or 18-hour drugs. Similarly, the variability is less. This is a very important slide. This tells you that why control of blood pressure with beta blockers does not translate into better survival. This is for the reason that if you control blood pressure with beta blocker and diuretics, you have a good radial artery, brachial artery blood pressure control. But the pressure in the central systemic arteries like carotid arteries, like aorta itself and the renal arteries, that still stays on the higher side. That is a central pressure which has been shown here. So, whereas this is the slide. So if you look at combined these, the upper graph is of peripheral systolic blood pressure and central systolic blood pressure is the lower graph. With both combination, that is beta blocker and diuretic on one side and calcium channel blocker and pridopil on the other side, you get the same peripheral blood pressure, but the central blood pressure is much lower with vasodilating agents than the beta blocker diuretic combination, and that is the control which we want to achieve. So with beta blockers, the blood pressure at brachial artery does not tell you the blood pressure in aorta, does not match with it. Whereas with vasodilators like amlodipine and pridopil and other ACE inhibitors, the pressure in radial artery or brachial artery is the pressure in the aorta. We won't go in, so there's a lot of evidence in favor of combining ACE inhibitors with calcium channel blockers and not ARBs with calcium channel blockers. It reduces cough, avoids edema, and these are the trials. So take-home message, my take-home message may be slightly different from what it is written, that number one, we have to use the combination which gives mortality benefit of the patient to the patient and not just a drop or control of blood pressure, and that should be evidence-based. If you want to use two drugs for control of hypertension which are truly not 24-hour drugs, then give them in different hours. So if you are using combination of say lisinopril with amlodipine or enalapril with amlodipine, probably give one drug in the morning and one in the evening, and your patient may or may not attain a good blood pressure control. If you want to give fixed dose combination, that combination, because you are giving them at 1 hour of the day, should be of the drugs which are 24-hour drugs. And that remains a combination of petrofil, amlodipine, and indapamide. Even thiazide diuretics, Professor Azizur Rahman was talking about them, are not beneficial, and chlorthalidone is beneficial because thiazide diuretic is not a 24-hour diuretic. It has effect of only 12 hours, whereas chlorthalidone is a diuretic with a diuretic effect for 24 hours. So when you are using a combination of drug in a single pill, you've got to make sure that drugs you are giving are 24-hour drugs. If you are not using 24-hour drugs and still want to give two drugs, give them at different hours of the day. Thank you very much.